Subscribe now and press the bell icon. Never miss an update.
Ready? 5 seconds. Ceremonies and prayers are being organized at the scared sites in Sarnath and Bodh Gaya in India, Kandy in Sri Lanka, and Gandhan Tangling Monastery in Mongolia. Chanting of the Dharamchakra Pravartan Sutra by the Mahasangha in various countries is being streamed live. Let us remind ourselves that the Buddha's first sermon was disarmingly simple. That sermon, known as Dhammacakka Pavatan Sutta in Pali, has a unique place in the Buddhist canon. Both practitioners and scholars revere it as the treasure in which the entire teaching is hidden. For 45 years after he attained enlightenment, the Buddha traveled across the vast regions of the Gangetic Plains to bring the healing message to the masses. Thus he delivered a very large number of discourses, yet all of them arguably offered only variations and extensions of the key themes summarized in the first sermon. Ironically, the Buddha's teaching was against the current during those times, but the force of his argument was woven around love, compassion, and non-violence. The spread of Buddhism around the world was guided by these eternal values. In his lifetime, he always sought to convince people through his logical and moral arguments. For the Buddha always held that to force oneself to believe and accept a thing without understanding is political and not spiritual or intellectual. This is the precise reason that in his first sermon, the Buddha advises the 5 original disciples to shun the extreme methods and prefer the middle path, Madhyam Marg. Then he speaks of the ultimate reality as given in the 4 noble truths, which are dukkha or suffering, amudhya, the arising or origin of dukh, nirodh, the cessation of dukha, and magga, the way leading to the cessation of dukh. As summation of the human condition as well as human potential, these 4 pithy lines are unmatched in any tradition, spiritual or literary in entire history. After the diagnosis of our ailment, the Buddha prescribes the medicine, which is the noble eightfold path to enlightenment, known as the Ashtanga Marg. It is a complete and perfect way of life. The 8 steps are right view, right thought, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. In conclusion, the Buddha proclaims, and a vision of true knowledge arouse in me, thus my heart's deliverance is unassailable. This is the last birth. Now there is no more rebirth. Thus the Dhammacakka, the wheel of truth, was set in motion ever since. It has been the lodestar helping spiritual seekers navigate through the maze of worldly life and arrive at the end of suffering here and now. It is so scientific that it resembles psychotherapy more than a traditional dogmatic religion. It is this open attitude of inquiry into the heart of existence and the possibility of finding the key to eternal serenity that has attracted seekers in every age for the last 2500 years. The wheel has come full circle, and the word of Dhamma has in the recent decades spread to distant shores in the West too. India is proud of being the land of the origin of Dhamma. It was from India that it began to spread in neighboring regions. There in new fertile soil and new climate it grew organically, eventually branching off into various offshoots. In India, we see Buddhism as a fresh expression of the sublime truth. His enlightenment and the subsequent preaching by him for over 4 decades were in line with India's tradition of respect for intellectual liberalism and spiritual diversity. In modern times, two exceptionally great Indians, Mahatma Gandhi and Baba Sahib Ambedkar, found inspiration in the words of the Buddha and went on to shape the destiny of the nation. Following in their footsteps, we should strive to hear the call of the Buddha, to respond to his invitation to walk the noble path. The world seems full of suffering in short term as well as in long term. There are many stories of kings and affluent people suffering from acute depression who took refuge in the Buddha to escape cruelties of life. Indeed, the life of Buddha challenges earlier convictions as he believed in finding a deliverance from suffering in the midst of this imperfect world. Today, as the pandemic ravages human lives and economics across the globe, the Buddha's message serves like a beacon. He advised people to shun greed, hatred, violence, jealousy, and many other vices to find happiness. Contrast this message with the hankering of an unrepentant mankind of indulging in the same old violence and degradation of nature. We all know that the moment the virulence of coronavirus slows down, we have a far more serious challenge of climate change before us. Mahatma Gandhi, our father of the nation, knew that the Buddha offered a way out of our present predicament. In 1927, he told the students of the Anand College in Colombo, "The great master taught us what is known as the right path, and to learn the right path is not merely to pack our brains with many things that sound nice, good, and sweet, but to do the right things." Gautam Buddha was so filled with mercy and kindness that it was he who taught us to love not only the members of the human family but also to love all life, to love all the animal world, and he taught us also the personal purity of life. In the final phase of his life, the Buddha was acutely conscious of the fact that egotism, driven by envy, hatred, greed, and ambition would undermine compassion and loving kindness. The Buddha therefore encouraged the culture of dialectic and debate among his followers to arrive at their own truth. His cure for human suffering remains as relevant today as it was over 2.5 millennia ago. There is no doubt that the urgency of abiding by the values that the Buddha preached is eternal. By ignoring the soothing wisdom of every spiritual tradition, we have arrived at the juncture where we find ourselves today. It is high time we paid heed.
Subscribe now and press the bell icon. Never miss an update.